Hi there, I'm Peter Millard, and this is 10 Minute Workshop, where 10 minutes in the workshop is never enough, it's never 10 minutes, and it's never 10 minutes wasted. In the workshop this week, well, I'm making some little sort of bookshelf, bookcasey type things, but I'm using actual wood from a real tree. I know, it's a first. It's coming up next. So yeah, I'm making a couple little sort of bookshelves. To explain where these are going, I don't know if you've seen or you might have watched the alcove unit videos that I did recently. I talked a little bit about the Victorian houses that we generally still have here, where you have two downstairs rooms, and sometimes those two rooms are opened up into one bigger one or knocked through. And we've got the same situation here. Basically, there's a little bit of the dividing wall still there, and the bookcases that I'm making are going above that dividing wall, the same width as the opening, but up to the ceiling. So very specific and quite narrow, and you'll just get a single run of books on each side. I'm making it out of redwood. Now, whenever I talk about redwood, I get a lot of comments in the comments from people saying it doesn't look like redwood. Okay, this is redwood. Redwood is Pinus sylvestris. Redwood's the sort of generic term for Scots pine. It's the basic sort of it's the most basic grade of joinery timber, if you like, they can use for furniture making. It's mostly grown in Scandinavia, hence its other name called Scandinavian redwood, which is why we just call it redwood. It has absolutely nothing to do with the giant redwoods, the sequoia of Northern California. Get that out of the way straight away. So it is a Scots pine variant, grown in Scandinavia mostly, and it's pleasant enough, perfectly straightforward joinery grade timber. This is 9x1 planed, so it comes down to a finished size of about 23 by 195 mil or thereabouts. And the bookcases themselves are very simple, very straightforward. I haven't actually got any working drawings for these. I have my, can you see that? Got my little scribble in my notebook here. It's just the extent of it. So the opening is a 2270 wide. We'll have ends sort of planted on, and there'll be a central sort of divider just to stiffen it up a little bit. And obviously the wall that it's going on is a partition wall, it's a stud wall. So I'm going to have as many sort of fixing points along the back of that as possible. The back will be 6mm plywood, painted white to sort of match the wall behind it. And I'm putting in some little corner brackets to be able to fix through into the wall nicely. It's the only way this would work for a shelf there. You can't just put a single shelf without some kind of bracket to support it. And obviously it's going at the at the height of the opening, so there just won't be space. So that's the extent of it. Two of those, one on either side of the wall. I suppose if I thought of it, I could have just sort of bolted them all the way through, couldn't I? It might come to that. But that's it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, both exactly the same. But one is slightly 5mm taller than the other, but I think I'll just do them both at the lower height. The ceiling is very kind of up and down, so they can't be higher than sort of 245. So yeah, that's the extent of my planning. We'll start cutting some stuff up, I think. With only 5 elements to each shelf, it's a short cut list to work through. So everything's marked up, ready to go. I'm going to use my regular 5x30mm dominoes in this. Just checking the timber out, it's barely 21mm. I did think about using 6x40s. But then you're going to be plunging, 20mm into a 21mm thick board. It's not going to end well, is it? You could do a reduced plunge, do a 15 and a 25, but then you've still only got 15mm in this. You might as well stick to a 5x30, the 25mm going into the ends, the tops and bottoms of the bookcase don't make a difference. This is the weak point where the domino goes into the end piece. So that's what I've decided to do anyway. We'll see if it works. So regular 5x30s, and I'm just going to bang those through, and then we can start getting the rebates cut. Incidentally, the reason I'm cutting the domino mortises now is that if you leave it until after you've done the rebate, then the little pins won't register properly because half of what you're bearing against they won't line up. So anyway, that's my plan. Working off pencil marks and reference pins, the domino mortises are quickly cut, then all the parts are sanded. And over at the router bench we can cut the rebate slowly and steadily to avoid tear out. Okay, so taking it slow and steady, several passes, seems to work okay. So we'll carry on with that, get the rest of those done. Okay, so with the longer top and bottom sections, I've built up the rebate in multiple passes in case that wasn't clear. Because obviously it's a decent amount to take off in a single pass, and the wood is not that fantastic, to be honest. There's every chance of that splitting and getting nasty. But I'm going to see if I can do the rebate on the edges in a single pass. I'm not sure if it's wise, but I'll give it a try. And see if it works. I've got little stop blocks set up on the fence here, but I'll do a test first and see how that goes. When doing this kind of stop rebate, it's very important to use stops on the fence to avoid the workpiece being snatched by the cutter. So I'm going to clamp up the centre divider first, which is not normally how I do it, but I haven't got a clamp long enough to do the whole thing. But I've got one that will do the centre to the end. So if I clamp that up first, then I can bear off that to pull the ends in tight. So I'll start doing that now. Here I'm reducing the depth of the central divider by the size of the rebate, ready to start the glue up. While the glue sets, I'm squaring off the ends of the rebate with a chisel, then sanding and fitting the end pieces in the usual way. And it turns out that I only have one pair of clamps long enough, so I've clamped a block of wood to either side of the carcass for the shorter clamps to bear against. Okay, well, there's one down. Do that. There's one down. Obviously needs a back on it. I'll get that measured up and fitted in a sec. But I want to get the other one up. I'm starting to get glued up first, so let's get on with that. Then I can do the backs, get those painted, and get those popped in later. Needs a bit of sanding, obviously, just to clean the edges up. Maybe even a hand plane. With the plywood backs cut and dry fitted, they can get a coat of white paint to match the walls. And while that's drying, the bookcases can have a final sanding. So I wasn't going to bother putting a finish on this, but I think I will just give it a coat of beeswax. Just a quick once over. I'll do that before I put the back on, because obviously it's easier to get into the corners. So we'll just do that quickly now. Okay, so the wax has had half an hour or so to settle down. We've given it a quick buffing over, a quick polishing off. All we've got to do now is fit the back, which is about as complicated as offering it up like this. And then just stapling it in place. I'm using corner plates drilled and screwed directly into the carcass, then drilling the fixing hole from behind using blocks of scrap wood to help prevent breakout. So there we are, that's our little bookcase project completed. I'll try and do a couple of a little bit of video of the install, but it's just not that interesting, to be honest. It's, It's going to go up on a couple of props to be the same level as the opening, and then screwed into the wall. Boom, you know, job done. The job itself is incredibly straightforward, really. Just a pine box made from absolutely bog standard, off the shelf, excuse the pun, 8x1 redwood pine. You can get that at any timber yard, any DIY store will sell that. But yeah, absolutely as straightforward a little job as you can get, really. Yeah, a pine box with a painted plywood back on it, which will then be screwed into a wall. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it amongst your friends, and please do consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. But that's it for this week, and I'll leave you with my exciting pine box project. I'll see you next time. Take care.